originally received the call, I was at the sheriff's office in the parking lot. I actually heard a portion of the accident itself. The challenges when we got there immediately was, we had several people injured, 2 fatalities that we could see. And the scene was, a vehicle that had struck a tree head on.
We were in bed when our cell phones rang, and our first lieutenant from the rescue squad called and said, "We have a wreck."
It's that dreaded call you always don't want to hear. We've got a car wreck with a carload of teenagers in it.
When I triaged the situation and saw people in the vehicle and people out there, and the female outside of the vehicle saw that the serious condition that it was in, I knew that there were life-threatening injuries.
The seriousness of the injuries in the vehicle, and we already had 2 fatalities, we knew. I assumed that we were going to need lifeguard with the others from what I could see from their injuries.
Well, I was at my house, and actually when the call went out and I heard them calling for the helicopters, I knew something bad was going on. While I was en route, I had a game plan, trying to come up with a game plan in my mind, what could possibly be going on with worst case scenarios. And once I got there, assessing the scene and seeing where I needed to be at the time.
When I first got on scene, fire department was there, first unit was there. As usual, everybody had fell into place and was working like clockwork. I went down over the bank in the ditch and to see how many patients, was still in the car and what we had to do to get everybody out.
When I first arrived on scene, we actually were really fortunate. There was a law enforcement officer that was already EMT basic at the time, so he kind of gave us a rundown of what was going on with the patients, which was really helpful.
We had multiple patients, and I realized we were going to need assistance immediately. I had them call for the volunteers, and I also want to give props to the police officers who already had lifeguard in the air, because that was so crucial.
As dispatcher was saying that it was a 1050, multiple vehicle, multiple PI, I yelled for my husband to get dressed. I just had a feeling we needed to go.
We found out that there was more than one victim. So we immediately came down and got the truck in, took it to the scene.
Well, the first challenge I seen was not enough people being on scene, with the number of patients we had going on, the entrapment in the vehicle, working with law enforcement on them coming to me and saying, we've checked the 2 in the front, but you may want to check them again to make sure they are deceased.
When Darrell Humphreys got on scene, he said that we needed more resources. I told him at that time that I already had another truck en route, and that another crew was on their way to the building to bring another truck out.
So I went to the back seat where one was laying down, and I heard something underneath her. It was a girl saying, "I can't breathe." It was a person on top of her why she couldn't breathe.
Just trying to make assessments of what patient I needed out of there first, and just what possible injuries, and doing an assessment on them.
When I arrived on scene, I knew there was a unit already on scene. I knew a unit had already taken a patient. Actually, I didn't know I had a patient until I looked to my left, and the fire department and my husband were bringing a patient up over the bank. And my training kicked in, and I helped backboard and get her into the ambulance.
When we're talking interagency cooperation in our county, our interagency starts out with our fire, rescue, police, and EMS. Our police respond to almost every EMS call, usually beat the EMS trucks there. They relay back. They've got basic first aid. They'll start CPR. They'll start assessing. We have a couple deputies that are EMTs. They'll start treating. Our volunteers staff as many shifts as they can on a calendar for the month. Then the paid people pick up the other shifts and work only on those days. Then on the duty day, as soon as a call drops, the duty crew, be it volunteer or paid for that day, is the first run truck to that call. The other agency or the other volunteers will back up that first truck as needed.
Our higher level operation is probably due to knowing one another and working around one another on multiple scenes over the period of the years. And the deputies realizing what's going on, the fire chief and other members of the fire department realizing, you know, the seriousness of the situation.
There's communication between the three groups. It's like a family, and so just because we're from different agencies, we're inside the same county, and everyone is pretty close.
It was like a drill because everybody knew what to do. There was no fumbling around, and it looked more like a drill than a scene because everybody worked so well together.
Nothing could have went more smoother. They teach in police academy, your EMT classes, firefighting classes. There's never one textbook situation. Nothing ever goes textbook, and that night it couldn't have went more textbook than it did.
Craig County had the foresight to call for all three aircraft at one time. Initially, Lifeguard 12 was put on standby. As more reports came into the other two aircraft, they went ahead and launched us, not knowing that there was 3 patients, but having the idea that there may be more than 3 patients. With that, we also had the concern of whether we were going to have multiple patients on each aircraft.
Some of the potential challenges that we have when flight following 3 helicopters is, first off, safety of your crew, safety of the ground crew there. Do they have ample space to have 3 helicopters land? Is it a pre-designated LZ? If so, that's beneficial.
We do an annual countywide one-time lifeguard LZ training. We usually do it in June of every year. All of our fire departments, police, and rescue squad personnel attend that. We rotate it to a different fire station each year. Lifeguards usually sends a different crew, a different ship. We do our training that night, and we've had excellent success by doing it that way.
It's always a good idea to have pre-designated LZs. When you're talking about a small community as close as this one, you're very familiar with the area and as well as the agencies that you're working with.
Some of the things we prepared ourselves for a 3 helicopter response to the scene, of course, communications among all the aircraft, making sure that we were safe en route closer to the scene.
As a flight follower, it's important to know your resources, to utilize our satellite tracking device, our weather turndowns, knowing what you have available in the area. We use 15-minute check-ins to get position reports, and when launching 3 helicopters, we pretty much know that when one launches, that'll be the first one to get your position report. You can go ahead and get that one, and then the second and third. And when launching all 3 helicopters, you try to minimize your radio traffic so that they can also talk to each other, and I can hear what they're saying back and forth also.
It was very well coordinated as far as the scene went. I wasn't aware until later that there was multiple agencies involved. And in fact, it was so coordinated that you would have never even knew that.
The early activation of the helicopters on this call was important because it allowed all 3 bases to react and get in the air at once. And it was a fairly central location to all 3 bases. So it put us all in the air at once and gave us time to think about really focusing on patient care. So we had 1 crew on each patient that we received.
When we got out of the aircraft, they directed us to the appropriate ambulance, and we were able to provide care to the patient that they had already triaged prior to for us to take care of, and did an excellent job pre-hospital and pre-us arriving to the scene.
The crews were ready for us when we got in the aircraft, and they were ready to help us load the aircraft. Like I said, as we were coming in, one was leaving and was one getting ready to be loaded, so we could come in and get our patients to go also.
What I feel was so remarkable about that night is that so many providers got out so quick. When you have a situation like that, which thank God above we don't have that often, but when you can get that many providers out that quick to take care of the patients that you do have, it's just remarkable.
You know, it just stems back to everybody staying together and continually each year, each month, each week, training, being together, talking things out.
Because of the nature of the call and the closeness of that community, we understood the difficulties that surrounded it from every perspective, fire, rescue, and law enforcement. These were not just patients to them, these were people that they probably knew and lived in their community. And they were in a bad situation, and all the crews just maintained a completely professional attitude, and we were able to, everybody pull together and get the job done and get them to the hospital very, very quickly.
That's one of the hardest things of being a leader, is knowing what to say, when to say it, and how to say it to your people. You don't ever want to have to deal with any type of calls like this. And then to deal with them knowing all your patients, and then have to try to give your members some sort of peace of mind that they've done the right thing. They're always questioning themselves, well, what if we've done this, what if we've done that? It's hard to find the words and the right way to put those words to get them to realize that they did the best that they could.
I would like to say in Craig County we're very fortunate that our paid and volunteer has one goal, and that goal is to take care of the citizens, and we don't care what shirt you're wearing. When that call goes down, I can honestly say that every one of our people jump in there and help the other one.